Hi, my name is Cesar, and this is my friend CJ. And this is how we make Google Slide presentations. Was that not specific enough? Alright, let me explain. Simple as this. Since CJ can't talk and I can't go inside the computer like he can, these presentations require teamwork. Which means CJ presents the slide while I voice the slide. And that's how we create CJ Slides. Previously on CJ Slides, we have gone all the way back in time to talk about the entire evolution of console wars. We explained the entire console war evolution from the Atari versus the Bally to the Xbox Series versus the PS5. We have left off on the Xbox versus the GameCube versus the PS2. So, let's go ahead and continue this episode! Nintendo released the GameCube in Japan on September 14th, 2001. Unlike the Nintendo consoles, which used game cartridges, the GameCube used optical discs, which were similar to mini DVDs. The size's purpose was possibly to restrict users from playing regular DVDs and CDs on the console. The GameCube's price was $199. It costs $100 less than the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox. The GameCube console offered signature family-friendly games such as Luigi's Mansion. Hey! This is a fake image! Get the real one! That's better. I said Microsoft didn't buy Nintendo, then Caesar wants to add that image as a joke. Anyways, in addition to the third-party titles, they even included the more mature video games such as Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, and Resident Evil 4. Oh! Hey, it's King Boo. Uh-oh, no, not the painting! Not the painting! Not the painting! Ah! On November 15th, 2001, Microsoft entered the console market. They began releasing the Xbox in North America. The Xbox featured an 8GB worth of storage, allowing users to save games and download content directly to the console. Like the PS2, the Xbox also played DVDs. However, it required an external add-on to do so. Microsoft released Xbox Live, a subscription to an online gaming service that allowed users to play compatible titles online. After 2 months of the Xbox Live's debate, 250,000 users had subscribed, exceeding the company's projections. Overall, the 6th generation expanded gaming consoles into an amazing entertainment experience, whether through online gaming or the ability to play DVDs. As 7th generation continues overtook the market, Nintendo and Microsoft discontinued the GameCube and Xbox. As for Sony, though, on the other hand, they still continued to produce the PlayStation 2, even after the PlayStation 3's release in 2006. In 2009, Sony announced that the PlayStation 2 production would continue until demand decreases. Now we move on to the next consoles, the Xbox 360, the Nintendo Wii, and the PlayStation 3. All three consoles had major shortages both at their launches and directly afterwards, with, for starters, Microsoft's Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 is continuing gone on for months, after release of the Nintendo Wii's still continuing after 2 holiday seasons. Sony's PlayStation 3 saw high demands for its first week of release, but it did not continue. The 7th generation is best known for major consoles branching out into other types of media rather than solely focusing on video games. All three consoles offer abilities such as photo viewing, listening to music, and even browsing the internet, as well as the ability to connect an external memory device such as USB flash drives and SD cards. The Xbox 360 originally boasted a higher quality DVD player and music player. They also had Zune, downloadable content, Netflix streaming, and Last.fm internet radio. PlayStation 3, on the other hand, is compatible with Blu-ray, considering Blu-ray is owned by Sony. They also have Netflix streaming and Quiro City Music. For the first time, the gaming generation has all of the major consoles focusing on online integration. All three have their own connection services. Competition has evolved from offering the best games to the best online content. Even smaller games can now be purchased and downloaded from their online stores on the console. Almost all games sold in retail have online support, including online multiplayer and downloadable content for bug patches and new features. Almost all games sold in retail have online support, including online multiplayer for downloadable content for bug patches and new features. Another fun feature is the use of avatar characters. Nintendo first introduced Mii's on the Wii console, custom-designed characters meant for specific games such as Wii Sports. However, they lack the ability to customize. Unlike Mii's, Xbox's avatars have clothes and accessories that can be purchased or unlocked in games played. PlayStation 3 doesn't use characters the same way as Nintendo and Microsoft. Instead, they offer PlayStation Home, a social simulator where avatars can talk and explore and customize their home on games played. So it seems only the Wii was completely backwards compatible with its predecessor, the Nintendo GameCube. Meanwhile, the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 only offered partial support. The Wii even offered the Virtual Console service, which provides the ability to emulate various of older gaming platforms. Each game can be purchased on the Wii Shop channel and saved onto the console's internal memory or an SD card. Original models of the PS3 contained some hardware from the PS2 just to facilitate backwards compatibility, while the PS1 games were emulated softwares. However, the complete backwards compatibility was not achieved until the release of the firmware update that came with Ratchet & Clank Future, Tools of Destruction. When the PS3 was released in the PAL regions, however, the Emotion Engine chip was removed in order to reduce costs, which led to emulators being used instead. This lowered the level of backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 2 software. This restriction also applies to an early 80GB of NTSC models. Due to the 40GB PS3 model in late 2007, the graphics synthesizer was also removed from the system, removing all compatibility with the PS2 software. However, in October 2011, Sony began releasing the PlayStation 2 softwares on their PlayStation Store. These titles will function on any PS3 console. The Xbox 360, however, used software emulation for backwards compatibility. Game-specific patches automatically download from Xbox Live or burn to a CD or DVD from the Xbox website. Various games have not received a patch. They still remain incompatible to this day. Some original Xbox titles are available for download on Xbox Live, obviating the need for an original Xbox. Overall, the Wii would outsell its competitors worldwide. However, Wii sales considerably fell in 2012. To this day, the PS3 and Xbox 360 have been catching up. Nevertheless, the Wii has still outsold its rivals by about 30 million units. Well, here we are. The 8th generation. On November 18th, 2012, Nintendo released the Wii U, the first home console of the 8th generation. Sony then released the PlayStation 4 in 2014, along with Microsoft's release of the Xbox One in 2014. In 2016, Sony released an upgraded version of the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 4 Pro. With a specific focus on HDR and 4K support, Microsoft took their own path in 2017 when the release of the Xbox One X, which added UHD Blu-ray support. Wait, how? Sony owns Blu-ray. Sorry. Anyways, the Wii U was a big failure. Luckily for Nintendo though, they got back on their feet. In 2017, Nintendo released the first hybrid console, the Nintendo Switch. The rise of 4K gaming. It's been several years since the Microsoft Xbox One and the Sony PlayStation 4 came out, with both systems getting more powerful in various part ways through their life cycles. If that isn't enough, the newer Nintendo Switch has established itself as a retail powerhouse, even if it isn't a graphical powerhouse, with the ability to play connected to a TV or handheld. Let's see how these systems compare against each other. $300 is the magic number for gaming consoles, it seems. All current baseline of 3 major systems are available at that price, including the redesigned PlayStation 4 Slim and the Xbox One S, which replaced the larger Xbox One while adding 4K output, but not 4K graphics. Oh, and the Nintendo Switch. Oh boy, the graphics. When it comes to graphics, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One are neck and neck. Some games will slightly run better on one, other games slightly better on the other. But both are similar enough that you won't find huge differences between them. The big chance to perform came halfway through the generation. Both Sony and Microsoft released enhanced 4K capable versions of their game system, the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. They're way more powerful than their original models, capable of reaching up to 4K resolution with high dynamic range graphics. Sadly, Nintendo lags behind its competitors in raw power, but makes up for it in form factor. The Switch is more like a small tablet, rather than a bigger blocky console. But the good thing is that you can play it on the go with its built-in 720p screen. The compromise comes out in resolution that tops out at 1080p when connected to a TV. But sadly, it has a generally poorer performance in terms of frame rate and effects than the PS4 and Xbox One. In 2018, Microsoft and Nintendo began cross-playing, which is where you play online together no matter what console you have. It took a while for Sony to join crossplay since they weren't interested, but ever since PlayStation players have been throwing complaints at Sony, such as the Fortnite lockdown, Sony decided it was time to crossplay. The biggest games from third-party publishers like EA and Activision are mostly cross-platform, but it all comes down to which exclusives appeal to you more. Games made by Sony will only come out on PS4. Games made by Nintendo will only come out on the Switch. Games made by Microsoft will only come out on the Xbox One and Windows 10. Since Windows is owned by Microsoft, Windows 10 has the availability for nearly all of Microsoft's major release, which means you can play most of the big Xbox One exclusives on your PC if you want. While PS4 exclusives remain solidly PS4 only, it gives Sony an edge. Currently, the PS4 has the better library of exclusive games, such as God of War, Bloodborne, and Spider-Man. Then there's Nintendo, which tend to run almost purely on exclusives such as Super Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, and Kirby Star Allies. And for Xbox, Halo, Gears of War, and Ori and the Blind Forest. Whether you want to play games online or watch Netflix, you still need to connect your game system to the internet. The Xbox One uses Xbox Live. The PlayStation 4 uses the PlayStation Network to access online services. In both cases, you need to purchase the premium subscription plan. Xbox Live Gold for Xbox Live, and PS Plus for PlayStation Network to play games online. Both services cost $9.99 per month or $59.99 per year. The better deal by far, this included additional benefits like free games every month. In 2018, Nintendo launched its own premium online service, Nintendo Switch Online, which is now required to play most Switch games online. It doesn't offer nearly as many features on the system as Xbox Live Gold and PS Plus, but at $19.99 for a year, it costs a third as much. It also offers free games with a library of NES titles that expands monthly. Both the Xbox One S and PlayStation 4 can play Blu-ray movies and access a variety of online streaming services like Netflix and Hulu+. The Xbox One S goes 2 extra steps with television integration and Ultra HD Blu-ray playback. An HDMI pass-through lets you run your cable satellite box through other systems, though without a connect you'll need a third-party infrared blaster to control it. The Xbox One S can play Ultra HD Blu-ray discs, which mean you can watch 4K HDR movies on physical media. Bizarrely, Sony didn't add this feature to the PS4 Pro. The massive popularity of Let's Plays on YouTube and game streamings on Twitch have brought capturing game footage to the mainstream. So both the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 feature built-in capture options. The Kinect lets you record clips by saying, "Xbox, record that." And thanks to the latest update, you can easily capture what you're playing just by double tapping the Xbox button on your gamepad and pressing X or Y to save a screenshot or video clip. You can also snap the Game DVR app on the side to screen record up to 5 minutes of footage on demand. The PlayStation 4 goes a step further, with a dedicated share button right on top of the DualShock 4 controller. At this point, you can tap to save the last 15 minutes of gameplay, grab a screenshot of what you're playing, or start streaming live to PSN or Twitch. The longer the capture length, the more convenient setup makes the PS4 the better system for recording or streaming your games. The Nintendo Switch has its own dedicated capture button for grabbing screenshots and video clips, but it isn't as functional as the PlayStation 4 share button. Not all games support capturing video at all, and there is no live streaming options. Annoyingly, to get any screenshots or video clips off your Switch, you need to completely shut down the system and remove the micro SD card, then put the card in the reader to transfer files to your computer. Otherwise, you're limited to tweeting your screenshots or putting them on Facebook. Now, to this day, we are in the new generation of the Xbox Series and PlayStation 5. Now, let's see how this generation ends up. Look, every console is different, and they are better in their own ways. And now that we're realizing this, the console wars are coming to an end. Huh? What's going on?
Are you CJ?
Yeah.
You were under arrest for unauthorized copyright use of images owned by Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, and Sega, and many other companies without permission. And you broke into this family's house.
This doesn't make sense. I always use copyright images on my slides.
What?
This cartoon has no budget, so why make all the images myself when I can just... I'm going to jail, aren't I? Well, this sucks. And to think I spent 3 months on that slide. And for what? To get locked up? Now I'm alone with this bomb and no cops around. As long as this episode took, don't get your hopes up for handheld console wars.